Welcome to It's a New Day. My name is James Young. And today my guest is?
Alice McAdams, Program Manager from Parents as Teachers, right from the start.
Very good. And
I'm Linda James, Program Coordinator for Skip Generation.
before we actually get into our discussion, you are the third group of people that have come from the Hillside family of agencies. And I have failed to ask the question, what is Hillside family of agencies? But you explained that to us.
Sure. I'm really pleased that Hillside is experiencing its 175th year of offering service to families across central and western New York regions. And that we've used this time really to develop a system of care that is responsive to families. And that we've built that care based on what families have taught us, as well as using evidence-based practices that we know are tried and true in helping families.
Can you explain to us what the SKIP program is?
Skip Generation is an educational / support groups for grandparents or kinship caregivers who are raising their relatives. Kinship caregivers are aunts, uncles, anybody who's raising their relatives. And we have curriculums that we do in our program. We've also trained some grandparents to be mentors, so they actually go out into the community and mentor other grandparents in their home. And so it's a great program. It's free, and our main point is to empower these kinship caregivers.
I just think that because of the time that we're living in, and then the other part of it is really not a bad thing as well to be having a grandparent or an extended family member helping out with the raising of a child. How did the agency develop this concept? What made them think of, I love the term kinship care.
Well, it actually started in 1989. There was a grandmother who was raising 4 of her grandchildren. And so she began to look in the community to see if there was any help and realized that there was no help for these kinship caregivers. So she went to an agency. We were Family Resource Centers of Rochester at that time. And she talked to them about what she had in mind. And so they became the umbrella for her. And so in 1997, I began running the program.
Very good. Well, that's a beautiful thing. Asking and it is given.
Yes.
Please, would you tell us what it is that you do at the agency?
Yes, so our program is Parents as Teachers right from the start, and we're an evidence-based model, which means we're one of those tried and true models. And we're a home visiting program that also combines group connections, developmental screenings, as well as referrals to other services in the Rochester community.
Okay. We were talking a little earlier off camera.
Yes.
Could you go into a little bit more, because I had asked you the question of what ages are the parents and the children,
Yes.
and I believe you were saying it's prenatal up to the kindergarten. Could you go into that more?
Yes, absolutely. So we can start with families at the point that they're expecting a child, and we can continue to work with that family up until that child starts kindergarten. And then with some of the families who've really had a long time working with us, they have realized the value of that parent-educator relationship, because we really make sure that the family is working with the same educator each time, and there's time for a real solid relationship to build. And they have participated then in our Parents as Advocates program, which we're newly developing. And that really helps parents to understand what goes on in a child's school life and why they're an important part of that.
Is there a synergy between the two of you and what it is that you do?
I would say so, in that our Parents as Teachers program is for anyone who's in a parenting role. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times people think of mothers as the parent, but that's one of the things that I really like to hold up in our title is it's at parents as teachers, so anyone who's in that role. Some of the grandparents who have been in Linda's program actually have also participated in the Parents as Teachers program. And we also make sure that we include dads. We realize that dads have an important role in families and make a contribution, and that it's important for them to be engaged and participating.
Do you find a lot of fathers participating in this? The reason why I'm asking is the numbers hopefully greater than what they say, because they say that there aren't any fathers. Now, I don't know what kind of fathers these guys are, but I've been seeing tons of fathers on the bus, on downtown, pushing their kids and baby carriages, taking them to and from school or a daycare center. So somewhere we're getting some misinformation here, or either this is just the few that I just happen to see. But are you seeing more fathers participating in these, or more males perhaps maybe participating in your program?
Well, we do have a grandfathers group that we really are trying to launch off. We have a grandfather who will be facilitating that group. But what we're finding is that we know that there are a lot of grandfathers out here that are raising their grandchildren, but how do we engage them in a group? And so what we would like to do is to really have any grandfathers that is out there listening to contact us so that we can have a focus group, and then you can tell us what you would want.
With your program, do you see a lot of males participating?
We do. We see a fairly good percentage, as by comparison, let me say. We make sure that we have a male parent educator. Part of what we really talk about is the importance of play and the importance of getting down on the floor with your young child. And we think that to be able to have a male that's able to role model that is an important element. We also have a fathers group. And in our fathers group, we offer the Incredible Years curriculum and really are wanting to understand the unique contributions that dads make and how fathering differs from mothering and how really they need to work together and that they can really surround a child with what they need.
I also talked to off camera talking about the income range of your clients. And the income range ranges from people that are on public assistance to people that are employed. Would you speak about some of those issues? Well,
most of the kinship caregivers that I work with are low income. A lot of them on Social Security, you know. So and a lot of them. I would say mostly all of them are low income. And it doesn't matter what your income is. We're there to help. We're there to support you in any way that we can. And so mine is just low income.
Okay.
Really.
And then with my program, we're actually funded by United Way, and so our focus is on urban families. And I would say the majority of our families, the families run the gamut of income ranges. And what I like about that is the fact that we all can learn from our different cultural experiences as in socioeconomic cultures. That really what one parent has learned in the context of their life is able to be shared with someone who has had a different life experience. And that's where the group connections part of our home visiting program comes in. It's an opportunity for parents to come together and share as common human beings the reality of parenting, the challenges and the successes. And oh, does your 2-year-old do that too? You know, those kinds of things. And how did you handle that? So we're learning from one another.
And I think that that's a beautiful thing, because this is really developing a real sense of community.
Yeah.
I think one of the problems that cause apathy in a community is when you think that you're alone and these sets of problems that you're faced with, you think they're only unique to you. And it seems like through this organization that you're allowing people to see that they're not alone, that there is this beacon in the storm, if you will, that they can find refuge in. Once again, with the grandparents, because I find that to be an amazing thing that on one side, having a grandparent or a third generation or three generations under one roof can be a beautiful thing because of the richness of the culture and the history that is passed on from one generation to another. I also know that there are situations where the grandparent is basically there by themselves raising the child. And here is a parent that has already raised her children and now is raising grandchildren. I would think that that would also have such a burden on the grandparent. Does your organization or your program deal with that and how to relieve that stress and to make the grandparent feel that this isn't a burden, but this is not only a responsibility, but this is love and this is what this child needs?
Good question. I'm a grandmother myself, and I raised two of my grandchildren. I got them when they was 5 months old. They weighed 1 pound and 4 ounces. So I called them my miracle child. And I think when I got them, it was in 1987. In 1991, their mother was found murdered in an abandoned field here in Rochester. So when I talk to the grandmothers, I understand where they're coming from. I've been there, I've done that. So I can relate to the things that they're going through, the challenges that they face, and I help them to understand that if I can overcome those challenges, you can as well. And sometimes we think that, life is life. Life deals us a card that we may not like, but what I express to them is that maybe you thought you was going to Harlem, but you landed in Paris, okay? So it's how you look at the circumstances. Will you look at it as a negative, or are you going to look at it as a positive? Because if you look at it as a positive, you'll realize that there's a reason why you're in this child's life. There is a reason why you're there. You're there to empower that child, to empower yourself, to give that child the best education, to help that child learn, to guide and teach that child. It's not as bad as you think it is. It's a blessing.
Once again, we were talking off camera, and I was, saying to you how impressed I am with the agency and how closely related everyone, it seems anyway, that I've talked to in the agency, how closely related they are to the very clients. And now your personal story about being a grandmother, being the sole caregiver, only impresses me even that much more because, this agency is definitely doing something right.
I just want to take a moment to comment that we often know when Linda's grandparents are in the building because they are a chatty and very lively group. They are not a group that seems to show the weight of their responsibilities, and that whenever I have had the opportunity to participate in the group, that you really hear a gratitude for the role, a gratitude for the program, and for these mentors who have been trained to go out and into the community and work with other grandparents, that they really cherish that role, that they look for the opportunity to give back, and that they really do so with joy.
I think that that's great because I was going to ask the question when you were saying the excitement, how inspiring that this is when you hear these grandparents coming in. I was going to ask you, well, what has caused that? But you answered it by saying the program, which is beautiful. I wanted to come back and ask you as well, because
Yes.
once again, we talked off camera, and I asked by dealing with parents when they're first having this child or before it's even here,
Yes.
and up to the kindergarten. And I asked, have we been able to notice a difference in the education? Will this child stay in school or will it drop out?
Yes.
But right now there's no data on that. But from your personal, from what you can see, okay, we may not have the empirical data right now to substantiate this, but just from what you are seeing and experiencing, what can you glean from that?
Yeah, well, the parents are in a better position to be their child's first teacher, and that's really what we're all about. Is that we understand that parents know their child best, and then we want to partner with them to say, we know that you know your child. We have some information to offer you that you can use in your home. Let's work together to see how it applies to you and your family. And then you see parents starting to get ready. Some adults have forgotten how to play. Excuse me, how to play. And we've had several parents tell us that. And yet we know that play is one of the most important ways that children learn. And so it's the role of our parent educators to kind of act as coaches and to facilitate that parent-child interaction so that the play can become natural and enjoyable for both parent and child. And not only then is that becoming a learning opportunity, but it's becoming a bonding opportunity. And so that relationship has a strong foundation. So when, like any relationship, and especially parenting relationships, there's that turbulence as kids go through their typical developmental milestones, twos, adolescence, all of those, that you've got that positive foundation on which to encounter some of those challenges.
You just hit on, to me, a very enlightening piece there when you were talking about parents have forgotten how to play. I just think that that is staggering to the imagination, that life could be that damaging, it could become that serious, where now we as adults have forgotten how to play. And if we're not sharing in that, I guess now we can better understand why we're experiencing the violence that we're having. Because if this is a child who has never been taught how to play, and they're facing the world with this seriousness, with this attitude, if you will, then we have just created, or we're allowing to be created, further trouble. And I guess this would also contribute to the low graduation rates that we have here. And the point that you're talking about, I mean, this may sound so simple, where you're teaching a parent how to play again. I just think that speaks volumes.
Yes.
And at the same time, I'm really emphasizing this because I really want the listening audience, I'm hoping that this staggers them the way that statement has just staggered me.
Yes, and I would say that not only have some parents forgotten to play, but sometimes as children, life was such that they didn't necessarily have an opportunity to play. And so that's our role, is to really kind of teach that. But one of your reflections was the impact of not being able to play and how that plays out into society. But if you're thinking about play as creating healthy outlets for managing stress, for creating the opportunity to be creative, to think outside of the box, to think of new ways of doing things. Those are all the things that are sort of being short-circuited, if you will, if we're not setting up an environment and opportunities for children to play, that we're not providing them the time, that we're not paying attention to the kinds of things that they're interested in so that we can support them in those interests, because it's from those interests that they get excited about learning, and then they get excited about learning itself.
Very good. In your program, we're talking about play and grandparents. Are there certain skills that the program provides for the grandparents? Because once again, I'm just assuming, but how do you get prepared for this, full-time job again? The great thing that you would like to be able to have grandkids play with them and then send them home
Right.
because you've already done your duty.
Right.
Okay, but now how do you get this parent to not be grouchy, to be able to take on this responsibility, to get this grandparent to learn how to play with this child?
Well, first, what we do, Mr. James, is we have to help the grandparent deal with their feelings, okay? Because as raising another set of children, again, there's some anger. You're angry, you know, there's some shame. You may have a child who's out on drugs, you know, and you're ashamed. You realize that you have raised your child, and you hope that you have raised them right. Well, now they have their own set of children, and they're not doing their part as mother or father. So you're angry. So we first deal with, we have a curriculum, and the first part of our curriculum is we're dealing with the feelings. We deal with the feelings of the grandparent, we deal with the feelings of the child, and we deal with the feelings of the biological parents, because all three of them have feelings. So you just can't look at the grandparents and say, I feel this way. No, it's a tri area. You got to deal with all these feelings. And once you deal with them, you have to come to grips with, why am I angry? Okay? And in order to, because the anger, you have to really get all of that out, because if you're angry, you're going to smear all that anger onto that child, and that's not what you want to do. So that's the first thing we do right off the bat, is deal with these feelings and those really big issues.
And when you get to that stage, what comes after that? Do you have to teach grandparents how to be nurturing all over again?
Oh,
and all of those things?
Sure.
Okay.
A lot of us realize that the things that we learned when we was growing up was not, maybe not always correct. Maybe our parents didn't know exactly how to be a parent. And so what we're doing is teaching them different ways of how to talk to your child. Communicating is a key. As you get older and as you grow older, you have a habit of yelling, okay? And so what we do is we do a role play. And what I do is I have two grandparents, one being the child, one being the grandparent, okay? And then we have them interact, okay? And then we have one grandparent yell at the child. Then we have that child, who's the grandmother, explain how it felt when that grandmother yelled at them, okay? So then they're getting a chance to feel it, how it really feels when somebody yells at you, you know? When you're yelling, it just shuts off the whole communication. It shuts the child down, you know, the child is no longer wants to talk. And so we're teaching them different skills of how to raise their grandchildren. And we do a lot of role play.
Parenting is really an opportunity, I think, for the parent themselves to get to know themselves in relation to their child. Every child is sort of an invitation to a new parenting experience, because they're a whole different person, and the combination between parent and child is different, whether it's your first child or your second child or your third. And so some of what you learn, some of the buttons that your child might push, or some of the things that you really notice in one child or another, are also opportunities to learn about yourself and to figure it out. And that's part of what Linda was talking about, I think, in terms of when you were talking about looking at yourself. And that's one of the gifts of parenting. It's one of the it's a piece of the hard work. It's a piece of the hard work. But it's also, I think, what helps people to move forward in their lives.
How do you deal with parents when you're coming into their environment and you're not necessarily saying, okay, listen, you're a bad parent. You don't say it like that.
Not at all.
But when you do say to them, I'd like to teach you some new skills or some different skills or some alternative skills, how receptive are they to this idea of learning how to be a better parent?
Well, first of all, our programs are really not only for times when parents are having a difficult time, whether that be grandparents or parents, that we're really there to partner with families to keep what's going well. And then to learn about what are the strengths that that family has. What is it that they're proud of and they feel confident about? And then what are some things that they would like that kind of support and information of? And so it's really the family directs where we are going. And we're there to really support them in that. We can offer information and to offer that respectfully, to say, you know, this is some information that I have. What do you think about that? What has your life experience told you about what we're talking about? And to hold that as valid. And then see, how does this information work for you and for your family?
Because all families have strength. And a lot of our grandparents didn't even know that what a goal was. Okay, nobody ever asked them. So I asked them, what's your goal? And I think what happens is, Mr. James, is that people never took the time to really ask them simple things like, what is it that you want to do? What's your goal? What strength do you have? You know, what's your family like? Nobody really took the opportunity to really ask them. And I think that's what makes the family stay engaged in our program, because they really realize that we really are concerned about what they want.
Okay.
People are more than the sum of their challenges. They're the balance of what's going well and where can they use some help.
With the grandparent program, the kinship program, do the grandparents already have custody of the children by the time they come see your agency?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
A lot of them don't have custody. And so what we do is we have several curriculums that we use. And one of them, we talk about legal issues, okay? And so what we try to express is that you need to have some kind of legal, whether it be guardianship or custody, you need to have something legal to do for your grandchild. You know, you need to put them in school. You need to be taking them to the doctors, okay? So a lot of places that they take them, they will ask them, do you have legal guardianship or do you have legal custody? Because they need that. They really absolutely need that just to get some services for the children.
Okay. And is it the same thing in your set of circumstances?
Well, we have biological parents as well as adoptive parents as well as foster parents that are in the program, so a variety of walks of life. I think the main thing is really understanding the unique role and relationship that parenting has for a child, the responsibility of it, as well as the satisfaction of it.
Oh, that's a very good point. We talk about the problems and the stress of being a parent, but we never talk about the satisfaction. Would you like to expound on that?
Yeah, well, and I think that, you know, satisfaction comes as a result of hard work. And so to realize, first of all, that if you're in a position of being a parent, that's sort of a given, that it's something that where you're going to need to roll up your sleeves and do it. But that it's when you are able to see the impact that you make on a child, when it might be something as simple as the first time that a very young child has an experience, the fact that you're a parent there and in tune with that child essentially allows you to enjoy that child's first experience all over again, almost as if it's your own. And to feel like some of the foundations that you have built with that child, the direction, to be able to realize the times when they have fallen back on that foundation and used it in the way that it was intended, can be really a point of satisfaction.
Okay, I wanted to ask you, pertaining to grandparents and the grandchildren, I'm assuming again that sometimes children may feel animosity, anxious, abandoned by the parent, and wondering, why is my grandmother taking care of me instead of my mother? How do you deal with the child as well as the grandparent when the child gets into that state of mind? And because I would imagine it also has to be crushing to the grandparent, because the grandparent said, I'm taking care of you, and you're wondering, trying to go somewhere where this isn't a good situation. How do you deal with that?
Well, all children want to be with their parents, regardless of what their parent has done or the lifestyle of their parent. That's just the given nature of children. We all want to know where we belong. And so what I express to the grandparents is that you need to be truthful with the children, because children can tell when when you're not truthful, and when that kids are smart. So I tell them that, and I also say to them is, never, ever, no matter what you feel about that parent, tell that child bad things about their parent. And what I do is I remind them of how they would feel if they was in that situation. And I think that, that helps them, because then they have to deal with their feelings. And then they realize, oh, yeah, I would feel this way. And so these are the feelings that their grandchildren are doing. But you have to be honest with them. When my daughter was murdered, when my grandchildren got of a certain age, I sat them down and I talked to them about it, because I didn't want them to hear it from somebody else. And I didn't want them to be sitting down watching the news and all of a sudden this comes on the news. So I think, and you have to have an honest conversation with the children. You have to let the children be able to express what they're feeling and honor that feeling. And say, yes, you should feel that way. Don't deny the feelings that they have, because they are real feelings.
Linda's mentors also participated in some of the family development credential training that we offer through Family Resource Centers. And one of the things that we really worked on as a strategy for hearing the voices of children and grandparents was in the context of having family meetings. And kind of the process for doing that, how to really kind of set up a date and time, allowing everyone in the family to make an agenda, to sort of establish what are the rules during this particular meeting so that everyone can feel safe to say what's on their mind. Everyone has an opportunity for their perspective to be heard and respected, and then to be able to make decisions as a family. And that can help reduce some of the conflict that families face.
When Alice talking about the mentors, let me go back and tell you how that came about. Okay. As grandparents, we did a collaboration with the University of Rochester, and they sent us a clinical psychologist to work with the group. And one of the things that we realized is that we as grandparents have to be healthy ourselves in order to raise healthy children. So we had to heal first. So we didn't want to call it counseling. We didn't want to call it psychotherapy, which it was. So what we called it was a gathering of women. And so we met every Tuesday evening, 10 women with the psychologist. We had dinner, and then we sat in a round circle. And by me being a grandmother, I could start the conversation. And as I started the conversation, it opened up a variety of things. And so these 10 women went through this training for a year. Not only did they get the group training, but they also got individual training, individual counseling from the clinical psychologist. And so after we got healed, we said, okay, you know, we're healthy now, we need to give back. So we sat down, the clinical psychologist, and we came up with a 15-week curriculum that we trained these grandparents in. And so they became mentors. So they go out into the community and mentor other kinship caregivers in their homes. They give them resources that's available in the community, and also that person to just listen, to hear what these kinship caregivers are saying. And they can say, I know, I've been there. You know, I hear what you're saying. But this is what I did. And so as these mentors, they have their own meeting every Wednesday. And so they're constantly in training. And so what happened was Alice had, or we have this, it's called Family Development Credential that we pulled from, and we pulled from some of those topics. And Alice facilitated the group, and they learned how to do family meetings. And so they're able to now go out and teach other grandparents how to conduct family meetings.
As I said, I'm just really amazed by having people like yourself come on the show and the wealth of information that is truly available to enriching this community and enriching people's lives, because I believe that if we can enrich people's lives, then we're going to have a very good community. And I'm listening to what you're talking about, and we're using all members of the community, grandparents, uncles, dads, friends, your father's best friend, or whatever that relationship could possibly be. And I think that that's a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
I wanted to ask, when you're dealing with the young parents and up to an early age, do the success rates of this, I don't know if there's a way that you can measure this, but I don't know what would happen. How do you internalize you're doing this work, and then you see a family or a parent fall back into some negative behavior? How do you deal with that? I mean, how do you internalize, first of all, as you're seeing a client and you are a client provider, how do you deal with that kind of stress?
Well, I think being aware that when we're in relationship with families, that we go on the same ups and downs that they do, and whether it be myself or other parents as teachers, educators, if we're seeing numbers of families, that can take its toll. A couple of things is number one is I think we need to have a core belief that at all times parents are doing their very best, whether it's the ideal or not, to have confidence in them and hope that they can recover and be the best parent that they're able to be. And then also to be aware of what our own signs of stress are, and to remember to tend to ourselves, to care for ourselves, because it's sort of, you so often hear the analogy of the airplane mask on the airplane, that you have to put the mask on yourself first, so that then you're in a position to be able to support and give to others.
With the grandparent program, I think that, once again, how important this program is, because if nothing else, there is a biological connection to this child, and I think that that's extremely important. Not saying that he could have a foster parent or a caring adult to be able to give them the nurturing and the love that they need. But having this grandparent in there doing this, also on your side, do you see certain times where you just don't feel like getting up out of bed because of the tremendous responsibility that it is taking to do the kind of programming that you're doing, coming up with the different initiatives to keep grandparents and to keep them active, inspired to do what it is that they have to do, and I don't know, do grandparents, can they quit the program? How do you deal with that? How do you deal with bringing new grandparents in?
Well, I can say this. We've had, I've been running this program since 1997, and we've had grandparents in the program for that long. They really, truly enjoy coming to the program. When you see a 81-year-old coming in the program in the snow, then you know that they really get something out of it. What we have to recruit other grandparents or kinship caregivers into the program, what we have is, they're volunteers, but they're called the Wisdom Work Team. And they are volunteers that are 55 and over.
Excuse me, wait, you guys got some great names.
Yes, they do.
What is that called? The Wisdom?
The Wisdom Work Team.
Oh, God. That's beautiful. Okay, I'm sorry.
And their sole job is to recruit kinship caregivers into our program. So they go out in pairs, and they are located at both places at the Department of Social Services, and they're also located at the family court. So as grandparents or kinship caregivers come in the court system, they can tell them about our program. They also go to health fairs, they go to the open houses at school. So their main job is to recruit wherever they think, doctor's office, libraries, wherever they think they might find these kinship caregivers. That's their sole job.
I just think that to me is an amazing thing, too, of how you're sending people in the community. You know, you're bringing in more soldiers. I mean, this recruitment is really, and then the other part of that, you're bringing in people that are actually from that community, understand that community, and because I'm not saying that people from outside of that community can't come in and help, because I know that people from outside the community do that. But I also think that there's an added benefit when you have people that are in that community providing that assistance and working along with you, because you actually really need that. I think communities have to heal themselves. It must start with inside that community. And once I believe people outside of the community see that you're trying to heal yourself, then that's when help comes from the outside. I would like to ask you a couple of more questions. I know that we're running out of time quickly. But within the program that you're dealing with, because you're dealing with such a limited space of time from, let's say, birth to kindergarten, how much information can you really glean from that? What is really done? Is there a true impact that you're actually able to notice after these parents have come through this program?
Yes. Well, first of all, families can enter the program through a variety of ways. Sometimes they'll see a flyer in their doctor's office, or they'll have a family friend who's also participating in Parents as Teachers. Through our Right From the Start project, they come in through our Baby Love partners. And then at that point, we really start working with the family in terms of my vision of helping the parents during that prenatal period is not only to understand that the decisions that they're making right then and now are impacting that child's future, but also to be able to truly see themselves as parents and to understand what's going on with their child and their child's development even before it's born, and to start to unearth some of the dreams and visions that they have for their family life as a result of expecting this child.
Okay, when you say that, what if the parent doesn't have any visions or dreams? I mean, they know that they have the responsibility of raising this child, and sometimes that doesn't look like a vision or a dream.
Yes.
And how do you instill that? How do you get someone to look
Down
basically
the road.
further
Yes.
than that, or the opposite of that? How do you
Yes.
get them to see that this is an enjoyable journey, that the journey itself or the destination itself is self-gratification, satisfaction
Yes.
out of raising a good kid?
Well, part of what we do is we have something that's actually part of family development credential that's called the miracle question. And
There you go. We gave the miracle question. Oh, you guys are good.
well, and so to really say to the family, if you woke up tomorrow morning and everything was just the way you wanted it to be, what would that be like? What would you be doing? What would other people in your life be doing? How would life look? And so we start there. We start with that vision and that dream. And then we backtrack a little bit. And we'll say, okay, so what are the first steps that we might need to do to work towards that? And oh, by the way, we're going to partner with you to do that. And we're going to act as your resource. So as you move along that journey, as you face the inevitable challenges and obstacles that life present, we're going to be there to help you problem solve those so that you can go up, over, around, or through whatever those obstacles are. And we're going to support you in that.
Now, I can see the practicality of that with a young parent, but now we have an 81-year-old grandmother, and we're going to teach her how to dream and have visions. What does that process look like?
Well, I think with the older generation, it's more of a process of bringing them from where they was to where they are now. And that process can look like life journey. And that life journey is so, when you was coming up, things look different. But we're now in the computer age, and things are different. So what would you do? What would you like to see happen at this stage, at this stage of the game? And you'll be amazed. A lot of them have lost their dreams, and for somebody just simply asking them what it is that they want, or what is it that they think they would do differently, just brighten their day, and they will begin to remember those dreams that they had lost, and say dramatically, wow, if I could just go on a trip, or if I could just see my sister, haven't seen her in a long time, or if I could just have my grandchild go to college. And it's just simply asking them what it is that they want. And I think a lot of times we forget to ask parents that. you know. We don't want to come in and put what we think on them. We more or less say, what's going on with you? What do you think? What is it that you want to do? You know, and they have ideas. If you could just come in sometime and visit this group, you'll be amazed. We have people coming in from different avenues because we bring resources into the group. And people are amazed at these 81, these 72-year-old grandmothers, and all of them got cell phones.
And they're demonstrating the resiliency of the human spirit, that just because
Yes.
you're in your more mature years doesn't mean that you have lost the ability to dream. And that actually with the support of Linda's program, some of those dreams that may have been kind of left under a bushel of cares and concerns have an opportunity. You know, she had kind of fans the flames of hope again, if you will, and those dreams can resurface. Or they have the courage to think about, okay, the dreams that I had in the past, there's been a damper put on those. What are the new dreams that I can claim and that I can resurface?
I think that this is a great conversation that we're having, because we're teaching young parents at a very young age that they can dream, that they can envision a better life for themselves. And then we're able to talk to elderly people who may have had dreams that have been deferred. And you're saying to them, we can shake those dreams off, or we can even create some new dreams. And look at what you're able to bring in. And then look what, on both sides of this, look what we do for this child. Because now we're teaching this child that they have the capacity to dream as well.
Yes.
And even to say there is a purpose in some of the challenges that you faced, and some of that purpose is to share what you have learned in the result of whatever battle you have gone through, and share that with another generation. You can share those lessons learned. And in situations where we've done the Strengthening the Black Family group, where we've mixed generations, and they have really been willing and able to exchange their own life experiences and again learn from each other.
Yes, they
and
have.
for the seniors to be really valued for the life experience that they bring, and to have that recognized, I think.
That's another curriculum,
Okay.
Strengthen the Black Family. And it's actually a curriculum that is our inheritance, and we're teaching our children how to be proud of their inheritance.
Okay.
And so what we did was we took the seniors, which was my group, and parented with, we also have a parent education program that other parents in the community or parents that bring their children to our program, because we also have a pre-K program. Those parents can also go into a parenting group. So we joined those two groups together and did this curriculum, and it was awesome.
A rich experience.
Yeah. The young learning from the elder learning from the young, and the young learning from the elder.
And that's the way that the mix should be. I read a book called Outliers and the True Meaning of Success. And one part of the book, it was talking about a group of immigrants that immigrated from Italy to Pennsylvania, and they basically settled in this little town. There was no one there, but about 2,000 of them that came over, and they settled in this town. And a doctor from outside of the community came in to visit a doctor that lived inside the community. And the doctor was very impressed because here was a community that no one was dying of. They were dying of old age. They weren't dying from heart failure and stress and hypertension and things like that. These were people that were just literally dying because life had run out. And so the doctor wanted to find out what was it that was making these people live so long. And they found that it wasn't diet because they were eating horrible food like the rest of us. It wasn't because they didn't drink because that's one of the things that they enjoyed. It wasn't anything to do with any of that. What caused the lives of these people to be extended is the way how they lived and who they lived with. They said it wouldn't be surprising to see two people walking down the street bump into each other and all of a sudden start a conversation, and the next thing you know, this is a community conversation. As I said, there were only 2,000 people that lived in this little town, but they had 22 civic organizations. That is showing you how much concern that they had for the place that they live. Another outstanding fact that contributed to their long life is that it would not be surprising to see 3 generations living under one roof, where the elderly were respected and looked upon as being able to provide information, knowledge that would be handed down. And I believe that this is what this organization is doing, that you've come together, found out what this community wanted, helped this community understand that, and now you're giving that back. And it's not a matter of basically how you live, but it's who you're living with, and that is making the difference. And I believe that if we can make better parents, we're going to have better families make a better community.
Yes.
In closing, are there any last words? First of all, I want to ask the question, a couple more questions. How do you get your clients? How do clients find you? Are they sent by the courts? Do they just come in? How do you get your clients?
A variety of community resources, or families can call me directly and just say they would like to participate in the Parents as Teachers program. Should I share my number here?
Yes, I was going to ask you that.
436-0370, and it's extension 308. And I'm very pleased to answer any questions that families have about participating in the program. It's free, and we invite a call.
And with you?
My number is the same. It's 436-0370, extension 302. And anybody who is interested in our Skip Generation program, give me a call. And as Alice said, it is free.
Very good. And free is a beautiful
Yes.
thing. I really appreciate the both of you coming on the show. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And I believe, once again, as I said, I've had several other people that from the agency come to the show, and it's always a pleasure to have you here. You bring, if nothing else to me, a wealth of information, and I enjoy being able to say that when I come into a situation, I can say I got someone that I believe that can help you. And I think what you're doing for this community is a beautiful thing. Please keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
You're making Rochester a better place to live, raise a family, and to work.
Well, thank you for your encouragement.
Thank you. My name is James Young. I look forward to seeing you next week. Be blessed, and remember, it's a new day.